Welcome to the Lead at the Top of Your Game podcast, where we equipped you to more effectively lead your seat at any employer, business, or industry in which you choose to play. Each week, we help you sharpen your leadership acumen by cracking open the playbooks of dynamic leaders who are doing big things in their professional endeavors. And now your host, leadership tactics and organizational development expert, Karen Farrell Rhodes.
Hello again, my superstars. This is Karen, and welcome to another episode of the Lead at the Top of Your Game podcast. I am just over the moon and thrilled to have on today's show Tyrone Farmer, who's a Senior Director of Corporate Safety at Dycom Industries Inc. And Dycom is a leading provider of specialty contracting services to the telecommunications, infrastructure, and utilities industries throughout the U.S. And I'm so excited to have Ty on the show because of his passion for ensuring that safety leaders have a seat at the decision-making table to help direct operations at organizations. And so welcome to the podcast, Ty.
Thanks for having me here. I'm very happy to be here.
We are absolutely thrilled to have you. And I think that you, out of the hundreds of interviews, I think you are the first in the corporate safety realm. So I'm very honored to, get your perspective. And we had a chance to talk in our pre-talk about how operations and safety really do help drive the success of organizations. So I can't wait to delve further into that. But before I do, we always love to learn just a tad bit about our guests. So for just as much as you feel comfortable, would you mind giving us a sneak peek into your life outside of work?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to sound like the Wheel of Fortune. I'm a happy father of 3 kids and a lovely wife. My wife's name is Stephanie. Have 3 kids, Sky, Bryce, and Brant. So the thing that a lot of people can probably resonate with is we're at the edge of being empty nesters. So that said, my wife and I are getting ready to walk into a new chapter of our lives. And that chapter is, now that we don't have the kids to worry about all the time, we can now just have fun with life. And so I'm an avid gym goer. I love outside, and my hobby is people watching. So whenever we go on vacations, I love to just sit in a crowded area and just watch the people walk by and put my own story behind who these individuals are. So that's a little bit about me. It's really a common story because I know a lot of people who love people watching, and I can do that for days and weeks and weeks and weeks. So that's a little bit about me.
That is awesome. Thank you for sharing. And, it wasn't until now, until you said that we have that in common too. I have been an avid people watcher my entire life. It was one of the reasons I went into initially industrial organizational psychology, because I really wanted to understand the people in the workplace and what drives them, their thinking, their behaviors. And then that has expanded to be a curiosity. So we definitely have that in common. I love to do it, not only on vacations, but traveling anywhere. If you're sitting in the doctor's office, I love to observe folks. So that's something we're going to have a conversation about
Exactly.
at another time. That is amazing. And your family sounds amazing. And the last thing I will say, as a recent empty nester myself with my husband, there is light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah. And I'll say it's so much fun. I was sad for the first few weeks, but then once you kind of get acclimated, your time is freed up to be your own. And we've been having a blast.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. Our kids are local. So we have these episodes where at any given time, my son will walk back in the house and go straight to the refrigerator.
Oh, our daughter's 8 minutes away. I told her go anywhere in the world she wanted to go. I mean, literally, because she's traveled with me, because we do a lot of global travel. She's selected a place 8 minutes away from the house. So, yeah.
Well, I chalk that up to we did something right that they want to stay in the area.
She does love to travel, but she's, I guess, a old soul and loves to be near family as well. So, yeah, she stayed nearby. And I must say, it does something for my peace of mind, just to make sure she's okay. But then, like I said, it's great to have your own space again as well.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
All right. Well, without further ado, let's go ahead and kind of dive into our conversation today. And I'd love for you to start, if you can, Ty, with just a high level of some major milestones in your professional career, and then what ended up landing you to be the Senior Director of Corporate Safety at Dycom?
Okay. Well, I have almost 30 years of experience in this safety game that we call. Once I graduated from college, I went to the United States Army, and I spent 8 years in the United States Army where I was doing safety and not even realize that was what I was doing. As a commissioned
Right.
officer, your job was to make sure that your soldiers were taken care of. And so through that leadership program, I will call it, and through that experience, I started understanding what safety was without people calling it safety. At the end of my 8 years, a lot of veterans will tell you, if you're going to spend 10 years, you might as well retire. And I knew I didn't want to retire in the military, so I transitioned out after 8 years, and I had the opportunity to transition into General Electric. And I transitioned via their junior officer leadership program, where
Mm,
GE capitalized on those leadership skills that we learned in the military as officers. So during that time, I spent 13 years with GE, progressing my career, going from a regional safety leader to leading, different organizations within GE. But at a certain time in your life, the whole traveling internationally is sexy when you're young. But as you
yeah.
get older, you have kids, you realize that you need a
Tough.
little bit more stability in your life and be a little bit
Right.
more stationary. So I transitioned out of GE into a smaller company called Power Grid Engineering. And I was literally employee 151. So
Wow.
going from the military to a large company like GE, then to a small company, I had a lot of anxiety. But
Yeah.
I was hired to start their safety program and start their safety culture. And I had a lot of experience doing that through my past experience. So that company grew from 150 employees to 1,500 employees. And
Oh,
so you
wow.
can, in a 5 year period. So you can imagine there's a lot of change that occurs, and being able to establish a strong safety culture that can bob and weave with the changes of reorganizing and growth, I was able to achieve that successfully. And then one day, when you're least expected, you receive a phone call from a recruiter, and they're saying, I like your career path. What do you think about this? And at the time, I said, I was like, I'm not looking for a job. I'm very happy. However, I will entertain the conversation. And you know how
Sure.
that goes. Sometimes you be careful what you ask for. So I entertained the conversation, and I was really amazed at what Dycom Industries had done up until the point in which I joined the organization. And their mission was clear. We want to hire a safety leader who can help us go into the new chapter of the enterprise. And
Interesting.
again, I've been with a larger organizations, but never led a larger organization. Dycom Industries is 16,000 employees, 37 subsidiaries,
Wow.
635 different offices, 14,000 vehicles. That's a large organization.
That's huge.
So, I walked in saying, this is my opportunity to really, if I say I can do it, this is my opportunity to do it. And I accepted the challenge. They accepted me as that leader to help Dycom Industries transition into a new way of thinking when it comes to safety, and how safety is a critical part of the operation, and they need a leader to help integrate safety into the operation. And so here I am 3 years later. I'm very happy with Dycom. I'm happy with the progress we've made, and looking
Nice.
forward to another 10, 15 years with Dycom if I can make it happen.
If you can muster it,
Yeah.
huh? I love that. And I probably murdered it, but can you remind the listeners exactly what Dycom does and who's
Dycom
their
is
client?
Dycom Industries is the leading telecom construction organization within the United States. We operate in all 50 states of the United States. And our mission, we like to say, we are the people that connect America. So our mission is really to connect those underserved communities in the US and make sure that everyone has internet access. As we experienced during COVID, you realize how important having that virtual
Yes.
access, that internet access is. And you also realize what communities really don't have it. So
Yeah.
our mission as an organization of 16,000 employees is make sure that every person, every household in the United States has that capability, that basic capability now of internet access.
Absolutely. And with the type of services that you all offer, your teams of, and I don't know if you call them technicians or associates or what the technical term is there, but your people or the company's people, a lot of them are probably out in the field, servicing clients, and they come across all kinds of safety hazards. And if you don't have great processes in place, there's a high risk of injury or accidents or you name it,
Yeah,
right?
that's exactly right. You really got to think about it like this. When you're sitting at home, and a lot of us work remotely now, work virtually, look out your window and you see a technician of some sort walking around your house because they're taking care of whether they're marking utility lines on the ground, whether you have an appointment for the cable guy to come and he or she is outside actually doing their installation. We have literally crews of onesies, twosies, threes, four, fives, and six all over the country.
Man,
And you never know what community you're in and what environment you're in and all
yeah,
the different hazards that are associated with those different environments, from dog
right.
bites to cold weather to the heat to
To
mental,
snakes, to
yes,
bees,
exactly, to mental health.
to
And,
mental
and and
health.
and
Yeah.
even some of the individuals who live in various communities. These are all things that we have to protect our people against to make sure that everyone goes home safely.
Yeah, I love that. It's been my experience that the corporate safety functions are considered a great supplemental operational department of a company versus a strategic one. And I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions that is out there. And so I'd love for you to share with the audience from a corporate safety perspective why it is such a business imperative to directly have whoever is your lead safety leader to be directly connected to the business strategy, the VP levels and C suites.
Exactly. I'll first start by saying that, and I've believed this throughout my entire career, but my job is to ensure that others understand this. Safety is a leading indicator to operational excellence and operational success. Because the one thing that everyone can agree on, we all want to go home safely. We all want to make money. We all want to be happy. And part of that making money and being happy is making sure you go home and wash, rinse, and repeat and start all over again, go to work, and trust the environment in which you work in. If you work in an environment that has a crappy safety program, you can probably guarantee there are a lot of that company is not making money. That company is barely surviving. But if you go into a company that has an excellent safety program, that's a leading indicator to say they probably got an excellent quality program. They probably gonna have people who are very happy to work there because they trust the company, the leaders, and the environment, that those leaders and the environment is gonna just keep them safe. And if you have happy people working in your company, you have productive people working in your company. And then that productive audience, they're trying to find new ideas, they're trying to find new ways to make more money and to really drive that success because everyone wants to be on the winning team. So
Yes.
I start, I'll repeat safety is a leading indicator to operational excellence because, again, there is no dispute. Everyone wants to be safe and everyone wants to live another day to continue this life that we're living. So as I said now, it seems like that's easy to understand. But when you're talking to leaders who they're only focused on the dollar,
Yeah.
it's an oversight often.
Yeah.
And this is the deal. Anything as a safety leader, I say is going to cost you time, is going to cost you money. And I know
Right.
this.
Right.
And so, with that said, I'm asking for a lot of upfront investment. And for me as a leader to ask for that upfront investment, you have to trust me that I'm asking for a reason. And I'm asking because I understand the business as a safety leader. And I I can help the operation leaders navigate implementing upfront investment so that they can get that return on that investment later on.
On the back
So,
end.
so
Yeah.
a safety leader to be influential, you have to talk in the language of the operations leader, and sometimes that language is dollars and cents. And
Right.
so, understanding the value we bring to the table to keep our people safe.
Mhm.
And sometimes you have to translate that passionate personal story, sometimes in the language of dollars and cents, so that operations leader can connect with the story. And then you can have a productive conversation about how we're going to make certain things happen. So as a safety leader, you got to be influential. As a safety leader, you have to understand the business so you can translate the language in the language of the audience. But most importantly, you have to be committed to what we do as safety leaders. We are about the people. I'm not going to put a price on anybody's health, a price on anybody's life.
Right.
But I have to understand how to navigate those conversations so that the right people can hear the right story so that ultimately we can make the right decisions.
I love what you said there, because people's well-being overall is the most important. And I always joke with the C-suite that they're not doing as much as they should regarding their human capital and their human capital strategies, when this is one of the largest line items on their P&Ls. So they should be doing everything they can to best optimize. I consider it an asset versus a liability, but they should be doing everything they can to help get a stronger ROI on the back end. And because you've been in this function for so long, I'm curious, how do you accelerate buy-in of decision makers around your safety initiatives? Because it's easy to say you got to do that and make that connection so they can tie it back into the business. But in reality, and I know it depends upon each person and what they prioritize as far as what would be a win-win for them. But do you have any advice for fellow corporate safety professionals on how to accelerate the buy-in of those that you need in order to get the things you need to do for your programs?
It goes back to that upfront investment on the leader's end. Building the right relationship is that upfront investment.
Yes.
Being able to create an environment where I can pick up the phone and call Karen and say, hey, Karen, how you doing? How was your weekend? And after you go through the pleasantries, but then say, we have an issue and I need your help. So understanding how to build truthful, trustful relationships and understanding where you can help the other person. Sometimes you got to make a lot of deposits to make a withdrawal. And
Yeah.
I teach my leaders all the time. This is not in your swim lane, but first of all, you need to know more about your business. So go ahead and help the IT director out with this project. This is not in your swim lane, but it will be valuable to you if you can help the business. Go sit down in the IT staff meeting and voice your concerns about IT and IT issues. And then not only voice your concerns, give your solutions. So you see where I'm going? It's like I'm telling my team, make the deposits, build the relationships, build the level of trust. Because if I trust you, I'm going to listen to you. If I don't
Right.
know you, I really don't want to hear anything you have to say. So for a safety leader to be influential, for a safety leader to actually have a productive conversation, because again, everything I say is going to cost you money, it's going to cost you time, then I need to build those relationships with all the leaders in the organization, because at one time or another, I'm going to need that leader to help me out. So through that relationship building, let me help out as many people as possible. So they'll be happy to help me out when I need the help or when I need that withdrawal.
Definitely. So, Ty, what are you seeing as some major trends that are going on in the safety world? And what do you think is around the corner in the next 12 to 18 months that companies need to be mindful of?
The trend that I'm seeing going on in the safety world is probably falls into two categories. Well, really is one category. We have this philosophy called, and it's a movement called human and organizational performance. And
Say it again. I'm sorry.
human and organizational performance.
Okay, gotcha.
This is a movement that's going on within the safety arena. And it's not just safety, but safety, we've been the catalyst to get other departments and other functions to understand it. Human and organizational performance is around 5 principles, and I hope I don't get these 5 principles messed up.
That's okay.
Rule number 1, people make mistakes. If you know that people are going to make mistakes, Mr. or Mrs. Leader, what are you going to do to make that process as foolproof as possible when you know that they're going to make mistakes? Principle number 2, blame fixes nothing. You can blame Ty Farmer all day long, but if somebody else has the same incident or the same accident, then is it really right to blame Ty Farmer, or should we step back and look at the broader perspective in the process? Because if Ty made a mistake and I switched Ty out of that scenario and put Karen in that scenario, will Karen make the same mistake? A lot of times the answer is yes. And
Right.
so blaming the person is not going to fix anything. Learning is vital. If you have an incident or if you have a success, start asking why. Why were we successful? What did we do right that we need to repeat? Or what did we do wrong that we need to make sure we don't do again? People talk about the incidents and why they happened, but very few times do we look at the successes and talk about why we were successful and how can we build that or institutionalize that into our organization. Another principle is how a leader responds matters. If a person has an incident or accident or makes a mistake, and the first thing you say is, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Is everyone okay?" Okay, everyone's okay. So let's sit down and talk about what happened and how we can make sure this doesn't happen again. If you are constantly responding like that, the leader opens the door for people to be open, honest, and trust that leader. However, if the leader responds in a fashion of, how in the world did that person do that? I've never seen that before. That person and the people around that person, they're going to shut down and they're never going to really open up to that leader. And the last principle in that is around continuous improvement. And you have to always look for the gaps, look for the mistakes, look for the issues so that you can continually improve. So those principles that I just listed out, it's nothing new. If you've been a leader for a long time, it's really leadership 101.
Sure.
However, we're trying to package it and give it a sexy package so that people will understand that if I really hold true to these 5 principles, we can really make some things happen. And if you think about those 5 principles, that's not just safety. That's in the quality arena. That's in the HR arena. That's in the finance arena. Every department, every function, if you follow those rules and you're trying to continually improve and have leaders who are empathetic, then that's how the organization gets better. So that's a true movement that's going on, or a true trend that's going on in the safety world right now. I would say another trend is this AI thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Understanding how we can capitalize on this artificial intelligence that's out there to help us get one step further, a little bit quicker than what we're doing right now. I tell my leaders this all the time. The one thing, AI can give us all the data in the world, but the one thing that keeps us in our role, AI cannot personalize
That's
that
right.
information.
Not yet, anyway. And I tell people that are nervous about their jobs going away to AI, I said, I think you're a little premature in general. It's not about AI taking your jobs. It's about you being able to manage AI. So you need to become more astute in the context that AI is impacting your job function or industry so that at least you'll have the skills to be able to contribute the way that your company is adopting or infusing AI into their processes.
Exactly. And we all need to be computer savvy. We all need to be technology savvy, but we also need to be people savvy.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and that link between technology and the audience or our people out in the field, there still needs to be a proficient person who can help translate. And I tell my team, that's what we do. We take all that data and we translate it in a form and fashion that our people in the field can understand it. We don't make it hard. It's not rocket science. We just simplify as much as possible so everyone can understand.
I love them. If you had one nugget of advice to share with early in career safety professionals, what would that be?
Understand the business. You cannot impact the business if you don't understand the business. Safety is not rocket science. Everybody knows how to be safe. You just got to determine if you're going to follow the rules or not. However, how a safety leader can impact the business is first understand the business and understand the people who operate the business.
Yes.
If you do that, then it's easy to have continuous improvement conversations.
Right.
It's easy to have project conversations. And it's easy to actually listen to conversations that have nothing to do with your function, but be able to contribute because you understand the business.
That's a drop the mic moment right there. I couldn't have said it better myself. Absolutely. Well, Ty, we're running close on time, but we can't let you sneak out of here without answering our signature question of all of our guests. And for my new listeners out there, my company did research on high performing leaders and organizations. And there were 7 big buckets of activities that high performing leaders and organizations always execute. They do them at different times, but all 7 are as equally as important. And you pull the trigger on one of the 7 when you need to. But Ty was so gracious to share that leading with executive presence really resonated with him. And the way we define it, executive presence is all about having the grit, the fortitude, the presence to make clear and convincing, influential justifications for others to kind of follow your lead. Without that, no one's going to be convinced to change the course of direction. So curious minds would love to know, Ty, why executive presence really resonated for you.
A passion project that I'm working on within Dycom Industries is around providing leadership training and leadership development training for my 150 safety professionals that are in the enterprise.
Wow.
Over the years, Dycom has done a great job of finding the right people and placing them in those positions. However, Dycom is now just getting to a point where they realize we got to do more upfront investing in those individuals. No longer are we saying you're the best person in the field, so we're going to make you a supervisor and not give you any training. You just know how to do it. We're now taking an approach of we want you to be the supervisor, and we're going to train you how to be a supervisor so you can be a proficient supervisor.
Nice.
With safety, it's the same thing. Very few safety leaders go to school for safety. A lot of them just fall into this role. And if you just fall into this role and you've never had a good example of what a good safety leader does, you're still just trying to figure your way out. And I want to stop my safety leaders from figuring that out. And I kind of want to have a strong coaching program developed for them, strong mentoring program developed for them, so that when they walk in the room, they're not just the safety guy or the safety girl. They're a company leader. Because as a safety leader, on any given day, I can talk to the president of the company, a CEO of the company, manager, a supervisor, and a frontline worker all in the same day. Very few functions have the reach that we have as safety professionals. So I'm very passionate about making sure that if my professionals have this reach to talk to from the top level leader to the front line, we need to have that executive presence, that leadership presence, that no matter who we're talking to, no matter who the audience is, they like us, they trust us, and they're willing to listen to us, and they're willing to have a conversation with us. And for that to happen, you have to understand yourself, understand your team, and understand how to be a leader that can bob and weave depending on who your audience is.
Who you're talking to. And when you're making your pitch or your argument or you're sharing your perspective, it's at the level that they consider it a win-win too, right?
Exactly.
It's something that they found a value that you were able to share, and that will buy you additional capital for them to know, like, and trust you.
Exactly.
And that's half the battle.
And if you have that leadership presence, then there have been many safety leaders who then move on to be leaders, VPs quality, CEOs. But we're one of the few functions that touch all these functions on a daily basis. And we're breaking through to our leaders to let them know that you don't have to retire in this function. This is really a stepping stone to get into any other function because of the skills that we have to embrace to be successful in this role.
Well, there you go. I think you just recruited a whole bunch of people into the safety realm. Well, Ty, we're going to have a lot of information about you in our show notes, your bio links and everything. But we always love to give some airtime to our guests to let people know where to find you and the company. So would you mind sharing how's the best way to reach you?
The best way to reach me is through LinkedIn. You can find my name as Tyrone Farmer on LinkedIn, or you can reach out through Dycom Industries. And again, as a safety leader, I'm trying to meet, shake hands, and kiss babies all the time. So any leader that you may know who in Dycom, ask them about the safety leader, and one way or another, they'll lead you
They'll find you.
my direction. Yes.
That is fantastic. Well, thank you, Ty, for your perspectives. I've learned so much about the whole corporate safety realm. I've been in major enterprise level organizations and knew we had safety departments, but honestly, I did not know how deep the knowledge went within safety. So I have been educated, and I'm glad to have brought these perspectives to our listeners as well.
And again, thanks for having me. And that's why this is my passion project, because I'm still trying to help others connect the dots as well.
Well, you do a great job. You're a great ambassador. Thanks again for being on the podcast. And thank you too, listeners, for listening to the podcast as well. We do know that there are literally millions of other podcasts you can be listening to, and we do not take your patronage lightly. All that we ask is that you like and subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform of choice and share with just one friend, because by doing so, it'll help us all to better lead at the top of our games. Thanks so much, and see you next week. And that's our show for today. Thank you for listening to the Lead at the Top of Your Game podcast, where we help you lead your seat at any employer, business, or industry in which you choose to play. You can check out the show notes, additional episodes, bonus resources, and also submit guest recommendations on our website at leadyourgamepodcast.com. You can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn by searching for the name Karen Rhodes, with Karen being spelled Karan. And if you like the show, the greatest gift you can give would be to subscribe and leave a rating on your podcast platform of choice. This podcast has been a production of Shockingly Different Leadership, a global consultancy which helps organizations execute their people, talent development, and organizational effectiveness initiatives on an on-demand project or contract basis. Huge thanks to our production and editing team for a job well done. Goodbye for now.